Hello, this is Gary Simon of DesignCourse.com, and in this video we're going to tackle this portion right here, the heading, the subheading, the right and left arrow, along with this white container here and these four images. And then the video after we'll go ahead and tackle this section down here, along with possibly this area too. Alright, so basically the first thing I want to do before we get into HTML and CSS is go ahead and save the images that we need. So this of course is HTML and CSS, and then over here we have these arrows which we want to create a sprite. So we'll take both of these and let's get them ready to save. So I'm just going to real quickly just duplicate these and then hit Control E. Actually, I'll undo that and just hit rasterize layers. That way they're flattened. And I'm just going to take one of these here. We'll take the left one right here and hit Control A and then Control C. We'll go to File, New. And then here, what we want to do is basically duplicate this width here. So that would be 74. And the height will leave the same. And we'll just paste that right in there, Control V. And then we will duplicate that layer and go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. And that is fit correctly. So now what we want to do is save this for web. Save it as a PNG 24, transparency selected, and we will call this left right arrow. Alright, so that takes care of that, and let's go ahead and delete those two layers real quick. And show these. And now I want to save this these four logos. I'm just going to include them all on the same area, so on the same image rather. Edit, copy, merged. Control N, okay, and then paste this in, and then save it. And we'll save this one as a PNG 8, and then just go ahead and we'll call this logos-1. And that will be it for now, although at the end we're going to take this and stack these on a row of two. So we'll have this right here, and then we'll take these two and put these beneath, and that will be suitable for the cell phone versions, and you'll see why. So let's go ahead here to our editor, and this is where we left off basically. So if we go over here to the browser real quick, we'll see this is where we left off. You can see if we extend this in, it's responsive. And by the way, Bootstrap 3, they released their customizer, so you don't have to deal with some of the steps that we had to take in the previous lessons anymore. But anyhow, so let's go ahead and go back here to our editor and get started with some of our HTML. So I'm going to go right here just after the row, or div class row up there, and I'm going to create a new row. Let's close it up, and then I'm going to do a div class equals call-12, and call is short for column. And the way the Bootstrap grid system works is it's based on a 12 grid column system. And so what that basically means is if we go over here real quick to our Photoshop template and we show the columns, we'll see we have 12 columns here. So the initial HTML we're tackling is this part right here, these two items. And these are basically 12 columns wide, and they're going to be, even though it's only right here in these two, we're going to make it 12, and then we're just going to center the text. And you'll see more specifically how this grid system works when we get to this section down here. But for now, we're just going to set 12 columns. And so let's go back here. And then inside of that, we're going to have an H1 tag, class equals text-center, which is a predefined bootstrap, which just makes the text center. ID equals, we're just going to call this blue dash title, and we design superior logos, and then close it. And then underneath we have the subheading, p class equals text dash center. We're going to call this lead 2, and then ID equals subheading, and stand above your competition. Your business is worth it. And then close it up. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that, and let's go ahead and check this out just to see what this looks like initially. And we see it is centered now, but we need it to be white, and we need it to be with our font, and we need the correct size. So we need to address those things in CSS now. Alright, so let's go over here, open up our custom.css file, and we'll do h1 blue dash title, and we want color, font weight, font size, we'll try 6 EM, and then subheading, color is white, font size, we'll try 2.5 EM. Now let's just go check and see what that looks like. Alright, that's much better. Alright. Now let's go ahead and take the We Design Superior Logos and make sure that's using our font. So let me go here to our editor and select the bootstrap.css file, do a search for H1, and you'll find it twice here, down here on line 421. And this we want to change to Source Sans Pro. Hit save, and then we'll see that it updates here. Now, here's one issue. So when we scale this in, we'll see for tablets here, it's a little bit too big, and then same thing with this, and then for cell phones we'll see it's like way huge. So if we loaded this up on a cell phone, we would see this covering our entire screen. So we need to adjust that with some CSS. So let's go ahead here to our editor, take our custom, and for our tablets here, what we want to do is specify one for blue title, heading, and we'll put in font size EM. Actually, I'm going to adjust that to 3, and I'm going to copy that and make this one 5. And then also our subheading, font size 1.8 EM. Let's refresh. Alright, so that's a lot better for actual tablets. And this we may adjust a little bit further in the future. Once we can more specifically see it, I'm going to do a video where we actually show it on a cell phone. But for now, that is good. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on, and we'll do the arrows here and do the HTML for this section. Alright, so now what we want to do is in our editor, we'll go back to index.html. And under here is where we're going to create a new div class equals row. Oops, alright. And So let's revert real quick to Photoshop and look at our grid system. So we can see that in the center of the first column, we have this arrow, and then also this container spans basically 10 columns, and then this one here is another column, and that adds up obviously to 12. So now we have to reflect that in our HTML. So let's go ahead and continue. Div class equals call-1. And this is all obviously predefined in Bootstrap. They have call1 all the way to 12. And inside here, we're going to put p class equals left-right hidden-sm. And the hidden-sm CSS tag is basically makes it so that these arrows will be hidden when we're on the small devices like cell phones. And basically, if we look at our design, or rather if we come over here and we scale this into the size of a cell phone, there's not going to be enough room to show the logos and both of the arrows. So that's what that tag does, and you'll see how this works too. So let's go back here and continue on. And ID equals left dash arrow, and we'll just call this previous gallery. Alright, and then under here we'll have div class equals call-10, ID equals logo-gallery, and inside of that we will have two image tags. Image source equals images dash, let's see what we have the names here, logos dash 1 .png, class equals image dash responsive, and ID equals gallery dash image. Alright, so the class of image responsive, when added to the image tag, it basically makes the image responsive, obviously. And what that means is it will scale to the width of whatever the browser is. And we'll see this in real time. So, 1 second, no. What I want to do, though, is add another one. We're going to call this images slash small dash logos dash 1. And we're going to give this the ID of gallery dash image dash small, and we're going to hide this by default initially, and you'll see how this works once we get to the CSS. And so now I'm just going to copy this up here and then paste it right there, and this is all going to be the same except the ID is going to be right arrow, and we'll change this to next gallery. Alright, so if we were to view this, let's see what this looks like. Alright, so things are kind of working, kind of not. So now what we have to do is use CSS to get this working. So let's go to the editor here. But one thing I want to do first is add one more class that I forgot, text-hide, right to both of these. And that will hide the text. As we can see here, the text no longer shows up. So now let's do the CSS. And so the first one will be p-left-right. And we'll do display block. Width is 36 pixels, which is the width of one of those arrows. The height is 72. And then we're going to have text-align center, cursor pointer, which is the cursor that makes it look like you're hovering over a link, and then margin, we're going to try 78 from the top, auto. And then down here we have the actual IDs. So P left dash arrow, background, URL, images, left dash right dash arrow dot png 00. And I will copy this, right dash arrow, and this one will be the same, except we're just going to move it over 36 pixels so that it only shows each one. So that's basically how sprites work if you're unfamiliar. So if we go over here, we can now see they both show up even though they're actually the same image. Alright, so now what we want to do is handle this middle container here, which will hold this image. So what I want to do is we'll go over here, and in our CSS, first we reference this as gallery-image, or rather first this one right here is logo-gallery. So real quick, let's go ahead and add logo-gallery, and we want to make the background white, and we want to give it a minimum height, so we'll just choose 300 pixels. So if we view this section now becomes, actually we're going to extend that just a little bit more. 300 wasn't quite enough, so try 50. Okay, and now we want to center this up and get rid of this broken image here. So let's go ahead, and we have gallery-img, so let's add that. And that is, give it some margin here from the top. And display block, and the second one is gallery-img-small, and this is going to be 30 pixels from the top and display none. Alright, so now we have this pretty much centered here. Now we have to add some CSS for the area where this gets smaller so that we can show the secondary image. So let's go ahead and back into Photoshop and create that real quick. So let's see here. Now I want to make the dimensions here. We're going to adjust those. But first I'm going to hit Control A and Control C to copy this. Go to canvas size, adjust this to pixels, and we're going to make the width 468, which is basically half the size almost, and the height 324. And then just hit proceed. We'll move this one here to the top, and let's go ahead and fill this in with a background color of white. Create a new layer real quick. And I'm going to move this here. I'm going to get rid of that edge right there. And then paste this one down here. Oops. There we go. And I don't want like two emblem logos right here next to each other. I want to kind of spread it out, so I'm going to copy that first and then delete it. Move this over here. And then paste this one right here. And that looks pretty good, so I'm going to save for web. And I'm just going to call this logos-1-small. Alright, so now in our CSS, what we want to do is, when we have the max width here at 767, we want to hide. Now this is basically, all the CSS, remember, is for basically cell phones or small devices. So we want to hide gallery-img. So display none. So what that's going to do is going to take this ID right here and then hide it. And this ID, of course, is for this image right here. So if we were to view this, refresh it, and then just drag it in, all of a sudden it hides once we get to the tablet versions. Alright, so now what we want to do is show the other one. So let's go ahead back to our CSS. Now let's make sure we have the right image here. Yeah, I had that backwards. So logos-1-small. That's the new image we created. And so this was called gallery-img-small. So we'll go ahead and copy this. And then display block. And hopefully that will work. So let's refresh. And now we see that it doesn't get scaled down so terribly, having them all on the same horizontal path. All right, that works pretty good. So in the next video, we are going to tackle this section up here along with this section right here. And then after that, we'll do another video where we tackle these and perhaps also this as well. And hopefully we will be able to finish this up here pretty soon. All right, I'm Gary Simon, and thanks for watching.